We welcome you to our Weber County Commission meeting today. It's Tuesday, the 19th of January, right at 10 o'clock. Seated to my right is Commissioner Scott Jenkins, and seated to my left is Commissioner Gage Frohr. I'm Commissioner Harvey, and will be conducting the meeting today. We appreciate those of you who are live in person today, and also those of you who are tuning in virtually. We welcome you. On our agenda, we'll continue with that. Our Pledge of Allegiance this morning will be led by Miss Jennifer Graham, the Assistant Director of our Culture, Parks, and Recreation, and our invocation will be given by Mr. Christopher Crockett of the Attorney's Office. After that, our Thought of the Day will be given by Commissioner Gage Frohr. Ms. Graham?
Please stand and join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we bow our heads before Thee this day to offer up our thanks and gratitude unto Thee for the many blessings which we have. We are grateful to live in this country. We are grateful to be protected by a constitution, and we are grateful for all the many things that unite us and for the freedoms that we enjoy. Father, we ask that Thy Spirit will be with us during this meeting, that we may be able to make decisions that will improve the quality of life for all of those living in Weber County, and to be reminded of those that we have the privilege of serving. We love Thee so very much, dear Heavenly Father, and ask for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Commissioner?
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, my thought today deals with some recent national politics that happen to, I think, follow us home in some cases. I look at what took place at our national capital on January 6th, and a couple weeks ago, and probably not the only one in this room that felt let down, disgusted probably is one of my best words. For those of us that have been in the Capitol a number of times, that's, in my opinion, that's sacred territory, that's sacred building, because that represents the people's house. And to have destruction that I never would have believed in my lifetime that we would have seen, really is hard to comprehend. I also look little over 24 hours from today, tomorrow, we'll be going through inauguration for a new president, transition of power, if you will. And I also can't remember a time in the history where we've experienced a transition of power quite with the extent, and I'm going to call it hate and contempt, that we have seen for this transition. And quite frankly, I just wonder how in the world we ended up here. My hopes, Commissioner, are that people will remember, elected people start with, will remember that these seats we sit in, just like the seats at the Capitol, don't belong to those of us who are elected. They belong to the people. They decide who sits on them, who sits in those seats, not us. And we need to always remember that. I remember my days at the Capitol, walking in and early in the morning and late at night. And again, that's a sacred place. Just to be honored to be in there and to represent the people like we do, commissioners, is an honor. But we need to remember those aren't ours. Those belong to the people. They can choose if and when we leave, if and when, and who should sit in those. So I would just say, if we moving forward, which I hope we do as a country, as a state and a county, that we can stop the rhetoric that's based on hate and contempt for other ideas, and that instead we'll replace that with integrity and respect, and listen to those people that we may not entirely agree with, but we'll listen to, we respect their ideas, and we can disagree without being disagreeable. That's what I hope we could do in the future. Mr. Chair, that's my remarks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Great remarks, and appreciate the involvement you've had in the years and your perspective on that.
Thank you.
Okay, now on our agenda today is item E, like Echo. It's time for public comments. We'll remind you that if you're here for the public hearing regarding the utility easement or 10-foot right-of-way, item H on our agenda, you'll have a chance to comment then regarding that. But if there's anything else on the agenda that you would like to comment on, those of you either in person or online would ask that you make those comments. You'd come and state your name and your address, or if there's any virtually. Shelley, we have any virtually today? None being recognized. Anyone here in the audience?
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Brent Hipwell. I live at 585 South, 3600 West. I also own quite a large parcel of property along 3600 West, what we call the north end. I just wanted to, I don't want to say advise because I'm not in any capacity here to advise you gentlemen, but along that right of way, a lot of us have followed the standards for years as far as development. We've given property, we've accommodated the county on what's required. And it becomes a real slippery slope when the county is involved in acquisition of property to help or assist a development, which I don't mind signing a deferral. In fact, one of my properties already has a deferral for curb and gutter on it. But to have to sign a deferral for future development because of both the county and a developer, I don't think it's fair, and it becomes a real legal issue as far as the slippery slope, as far as my obligation to, at the time when I developed, now I'm being held to a different standard. I think that needs to be taken into consideration. And the real reason I'm here is because when you guys had the meeting with the Planning Commission, we were not allowed, certain people were not allowed to voice their opinion during that meeting. We were blocked. And the reason I'm here today is just to voice that opinion and let you guys know that I gave 42 feet along that right of way so I could develop. I've signed a curb and gutter deferral. Now to come back and say, hey, because this gentleman's developing, I have to pay a portion of that, I don't feel fair. And I just wanted that as a record to state that it becomes a very slippery slope. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hipwell. Appreciate your comments today. Commissioners, anything else? Anyone else in the audience like to speak to this? Thank you. None being recognized, we'll move on to our consent items, which are items F on the agenda. Item F1 is a request for approval of warrants 3436 through and including 3461 and 456007 through and including 456172 in the amount of $1,670,311.07. Item 2 is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $304,920.26. Item 3 is a request for approval of the minutes for the meeting held on January 12th, 2021. Item 4 is a request for the approval of the new business licenses. Item 5 is a request for Weber County Elections for approval of surplus of office equipment and office furniture. Item 6 is a request from Weber County Tax Review Committee for approval of a refund in the amount of $567.82 to Oscar Izaguirre, parcel number 04-020-0021. Item 7 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and the Hunter and Company Communications LLC for government relations services. And item 8, Commissioners, is a request for approval of amendment to a ramp grant contract by and between Weber County and Ogden First, or O1 Arts. Commissioners, we have several consent items there. Do any of you have any questions on either or any of them? No? None being heard. Mr. Hatch, would you give us a rundown of some of the notable ones, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We issued 33 purchase orders this week for $305,000. 28% of that amount, or $85,000, is for the conference center to purchase food, which is great because that means somebody is coming there to eat the food. And it's nice to see activity there again. 24%, or $74,000, is for the jail, and that will go towards shower replacements as well as electrostatic sprayers. 20%, or $60,000, is for our IT department. The bulk of that went towards conduit installation as well as some streaming services for commission meetings. 17%, or $52,000, is for the library, which will go towards building maintenance as well as the purchase of some new laptops. As far as checks, we issued 192 checks this week for $1.7 million. Just over half that amount, $875,000, was CARES Act disbursements that went to various nonprofits throughout the county. 12%, or $196,000, is for the street road construction on the 20th Street, and those are paid for out of transportation tax dollars. And then 6%, or $93,000, was for the jail, and it was split among several different areas: medical services for inmates, food, utilities, training, and government relations.
Mr. Hatch, anything else?
That concludes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, especially, I'd like to call out a point of privilege for you, Commissioner Froer, with regards to the CARES Act and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that went out there with this check run. Would you mind just commenting that so people know what that's about?
No, so as the public's aware, this is actually a program for CARES Act 1 that we stood up a number of months ago. Our first obligation was to obviously help small businesses, which is what we did. We helped about 650 plus to the tune of $7.5 million. We then looked at nonprofits and working with Ogden City, because since the majority of those nonprofits were with Ogden City, we forwarded some of our CARES Act money to Ogden City for disbursement for the nonprofits, which they did, and then also helped a few small businesses as well. At the end of the day, as we approached the final, which we were anticipating that would have been December 31st, that the money had to be spent. On the week prior to that date, President Trump signed a bill that actually put that deadline into 2021. So it gave us an opportunity to sit back and look a little more before we made the final disbursements. But our final the last round that we'll approve prior to making agreements, interlocal agreements on whatever funds we may have left over, will go to our nonprofits, approximately 10 small nonprofits, ranging, and we have those numbers, but ranging in size of these grants from 30,000 to over 100,000. So, Mr. Chair, I'm again here to applaud John Bond, the people that worked diligently to look at these nonprofits and in the needs, not necessarily what the wants, and did, in my opinion, a fair distribution of these final funds. So that's what it's about.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, Linnell Jensen and Brooke Stewart,
Exactly.
Also just a fantastic team, and we appreciate the comments from the other 29 counties who have a lot of times replicated our program that this team have stood up. It was a great experience. With hearing no other comments regarding those consent items, I'll place the motion and look for an approval. You
like a motion?
A motion, that's what I meant.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the consent items F1 through 8.
Second.
Thank you. A motion and seconded. Thank you. I'll place that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Commissioners, I failed, and while there was a nice tribute paid to former Representative Luana Shurtleff last week, I wanted to make mention, we're glad that and welcome Dr. Rosemary Lesser to the seat 10 position and wish her success this morning as she begins to immerse herself or drown herself in that experience down there, which the two of you are very familiar with. But I think it's safe to say that we're in a better spot here than they are there. Would either of you object to that?
No, I would second that motion.
Great. Well, then we'll move on to item G, which is our action items. The first one, Commissioners, I'll call your attention, is a resolution, and it's a request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners, Weber County, appointing members to the Weber Morgan Health Board. Mr. Crockett, you're listed here as the presenter of that, since you sit in council for the Weber Morgan Health Board.
Thank you, Commissioners. The Weber Morgan Health Department is an interlocal entity between Weber County and Morgan County. It is governed by a board consisting of 13 members. 2 of those members come from Morgan County. The other remaining members are appointed by the Weber County Commission. There are 3 vacancies on the board right now. One of those would be for the spot filled by a current Weber County Commissioner. The other 2 spots that have vacancies is one that would serve in an at-large capacity representing business interests in Weber County, in both Weber and Morgan counties, and then the other one would be representing environmental interests. And so we present that to you to fill those appointments.
Terrific comments, Commissioners, regarding that. Commissioner Farrar, you're the one representing our commission. If that's in your portfolio, do you have any comments regarding this?
No, it's, you know, these, as I said on that board for the last 2 years, I realized, you know, there's a need for individuals on that board that will make the hard decisions, sometimes dealing with regulation, enforcement, and a lot of other issues that and also take some, in my opinion, some expertise in the health industry, since we are talking about a health board. So I would say that the individuals that we will be discussing here this morning meet those qualifications, and I would look forward to serving with them on the board.
Great. Are there recommendations for individual names? You make those, or Commissioner Farrar, do you have those, or where are those coming from today, Chris?
So the names that I have listed down are, the recommendations would be to have Commissioner Farrar continue serving as the representative from the County Commission, and then Mr. Alex McDonald to represent the business interests, and then I believe it's Bonnie Whalen to represent the environmental interest. Wallen, excuse me.
It's okay, great, no problem. Super, those recommendations have been brought to you, Commissioners. I see those members here in the audience, but it's just come to me. Brett and Randy, are those yours? Brett Wallen and Randy Wallen? Distant. Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I might, we might introduce
please
our 2 individuals.
Could you take care of that, please?
That are here. So I would just ask, Mr. Alex McDonald to please stand so people know. Alex comes from the health industry to the extent that he was in charge of Intermountain organ donations for a number of years.
Decades.
And did a great job working with business, with health concerns. Spent some time at the legislature. And that's where I actually met Alex on some of the bills that we passed to encourage organ donation. So Alex, and I think he also served on the state health board as well. So comes with great experience here in Weber County. We also have with us Bonnie Wallen. And Bonnie, if you please stand. So Bonnie also comes from the health industry, the medical field. Some of you may know that she's married to Dr. Jack Wallen, probably the best known, what I would call endocrinologist this side of the Mississippi, if not the entire, well-respected. And Bonnie, I think, offers the ability to come to that board with not only the health background, but more importantly, some common sense that we need to, as we make these resolutions and make these appointments. So in the notice of full disclosure, I do need to disclose that Bonnie, in fact, is my sister-in-law. So I hope that doesn't change your vote, but she is my sister-in-law, but she has expressed a desire to serve on this board for some period of time. So that's my presentation.
Thank you,
Chair.
Commissioner Jenkins?
You know, all I want to do, I'm going to support this, and we'll second it. Was that a motion?
That was a motion.
I will second that motion. But I do want to comment, I had another individual lined up here that Gage had asked me to do, but I was a little late. You know, it takes time to talk to people, and I was a little late, so I want to apologize. But other than that, I'm very much in favor, and these are fine individuals.
Wonderful. Thank you. And you know, it's great that we have such wonderful talent within our community. Ogden's really always led the state with talent. And then we get harpooned in Salt Lake and other parts with our great talent. Have for centuries. But we appreciate you growing where you're planted, and we really appreciate your service here. Before I call for the vote too, I want to thank those who have been serving on our health board in the past. That's important. 3 and 4 years ago, while sitting on the health board, the structure of the health board was changed to include more health-minded officials. We went from several elected officials to people who are actually involved, and those seats are available today to include folks like you because of that change. And the whole design is that we include that talent and rotate our staff. And so I think it's wise that we're making those changes today, and it flows right along with the intent when we changed the makeup of the board 3 years ago. So that's great. Well, since there's been a motion and a second, I'll place that resolution for a vote. Fatima?
Commissioner Froer?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chair Harvey?
Aye. Thank you. That resolution passes. Appreciate that. We'll move on to item 2 on our agenda. Jennifer, why don't you come on forward? This is a request for approval of a resolution of the Weber County Commissioners appointing a member to the Ogden Musical Theater Board. In her place, Cassie Bybee's place, is Miss Jennifer Graham. Go ahead, Miss Graham.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm standing in for Cassie. We're looking to appoint four board members to the Ogden Musical Theater. They are Natasha Avuoba, Burke Burkhart, Lori McMillan West, and Kathy Smith. All of these appointments would be a 4-year appointment that would end in December of 2024.
Commissioners, any questions?
Are these all renewals?
Pardon me?
Are these all ones that are re-upping?
No, these are all new members.
All new members, okay.
Just a brief background. The Ogden Musical Theater is something that's not. We started that within the last 4 years because the excitement for theater and culture in that aspect has really grown, and it's been a very strong and worthwhile endeavor for us in that historic Peary's Egyptian theater. So we're glad that these people are helping us in this capacity.
Yes, and the board took these nominations very seriously and have vetted these applications. Each of them brings what is going to be some unique experience and some unique talents to the board. So
terrific. We're excited what's happening over at the theater through COVID, and while we've not been meeting, through a philanthropic or a donation from a family, and we'll be announcing that in the next couple of months. But we've been doing an over $1 million renovation on the lighting system within the theater. And that's just gifted to, it's going to be wonderful. From those old cellophane sheets that they used to put in front of lights, you remember you slide them in and put them in. We don't have to drop the whole light trees. They can do them all now with digital and with LEDs and with millions of different colors of lights. It's going to be wonderful. Super. We're looking forward to that presentation also soon.
Yes, I think the presentation to the department head and elected officials will be February, I believe.
No, we've had to move it to March because we've got it's busy that day, of that same day. So I got that word just the other day. So, but it's coming up soon, coming soon. So that's great. Well, Commissioners, if there's no other comments, seeing none, I'll place that resolution for a vote. Fatima?
Commissioner Froer?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chair Harvey?
Aye, that's resolution number 5. Thank you, and that passes. Thank you, Ms. Graham.
Thank you.
Mr. Myers, you're up next. This is a request for approval of agreement by and between Weber County and Cherokee Properties LP for the road improvement and reimbursement of property acquisition costs related to 3600 West. Gary Myers, and this is related to the topic that Mr. Brent Hipwell commented in our public comments.
Very much so. So good morning, Commissioners, for your consideration today.
Good morning, Mr. Myers.
I have an agreement that has gone through multiple rounds of conversation and discussion, but it is an agreement. 3600 West is on our master plan on a road to be extended through. And as such, whenever we have a development that comes along and provides an opportunity for us to begin those improvements, we try to work with the developer as best we can. For your consideration today is an agreement between Mr. Brad Blanche and the county for reimbursement by Mr. Blanche to the county for property acquired for this road that we are beginning to acquire. In the agreement, it states that the offers will begin to be made in the first quarter of 2021. So we have an acquisition agent, that we've been working with to get those offers prepared and probably presented hopefully this week.
Very good. Commissioner Jenkins, this is in your portfolio.
Yeah,
Would you
Gary,
like to? You bet.
Can you comment on Ms. Tripple's point to us about the deferral agreement?
So to be honest with you, I actually walked in halfway through his comment, so I only heard part of it. What was his concern regarding?
That he's being forced to sign a deferral agreement. I assume that's for curb and gutter.
So a deferral agreement is something we actually do in a lot of situations on roads. It's something that's assigned to a property when it's dedicated to the county, and it's not something crazy or unique or that we created. It's actually done in a lot of different places. I personally wasn't involved in the deferral with Mr. Hipwell. However, I'm familiar with it, and it is a standard type agreement that we would request of anybody else along a road.
John, do you have more knowledge on that?
Yeah.
Commissioners, in lieu of curb, gutter, sidewalk, and some asphalt improvements, when a property develops but it's not the right time for those improvements, we require a deferral agreement to be signed, which is what Mr. Hipwell did. And then at such time as the county deems that it's the appropriate time for those improvements to come in, we can call in that deferral agreement, and that owner is responsible for the cost of those improvements that are captured within that agreement. So that is what we're talking about.
So my question is, and I think his is the fact that in this case, he's not the developer.
That's correct.
He's a guy that is being forced to sell a little piece of property and to have a deferral agreement with it. I see Cortland shaking his head. Is that not right?
In this case, the deferral agreement is already in place because he subdivided. And now, because the road improvements are coming in, the county is saying it's the appropriate time for him to put in his share of those improvements.
Okay.
That's what we're dealing with.
That changes everything. Okay. I didn't understand that way. So thank you.
So if there hadn't have been a subdivision, if that piece of property had not been subdivided, this wouldn't be happening then, correct?
Correct. There would not be a deferral agreement, and he would not be bound by those terms.
I want to just be certain. So it was on the action of Mr. Hipwell that subdivided that property that's caused this?
Yes. The subdivision triggers the deferral agreement, and that's where we're at right now.
Interesting. Thank you. Are there any other questions, Commissioners, for Mr. Myers on this presentation today? Great. With nothing, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd make the motion that we approve the agreement between Weber County and Cherokee Properties LP for the road improvements. And I want you to know I'm glad to have this off our plate. This has been here since before I have been here. I was 2.5 years.
Before me, too.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, this is an old one.
I'm glad to have this done.
Commissioner Froer?
I'm going to second with a comment regarding deferral agreements. I've been involved with deferral agreements through my career, and actually, I believe that it's a good process. And again, a deferral agreement is nothing more than if I own a piece of property that is not being developed right now, but maybe in the future, then I should expect when I do turn or subdivide that property, I should expect to pay for those improvements, curb and gutter, sidewalk, etc. Now, nobody's forcing me to until I make the decision to develop. So it's not fair if I own a piece of property, one side or the other of a development, that I would force whoever develops that parcel to pay for my improvements that I would later capitalize on. So in my opinion, it's a fair agreement. It's triggered by me. If I want to keep a piece of property hay ground, agricultural forever, I can do that. And the deferral agreement does not kick in. Would that be true, Mr. Myers?
Very much so, yeah.
So just to make sure.
That's a second with that.
Appreciate that, so that I'm clear. And I always love learning from both of you on these things, but just to ask the question, so when and if the deferral agreement is ever exercised, then those improvements for curb and gutter would then really be passed on to the people who are buying the property that's being improved.
That's correct.
If it's being sold.
That's correct.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second on this. I'll place the motion for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Myers, you're still right there. Item number 4 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and A-Trans for a 3500 West stop sign warrant study.
Yes, sir. So if you've had the opportunity to drive through the particular intersection of 3500 West and 2550 South, it is a heavily used intersection. As such, we've received some requests to evaluate that intersection to see if it warrants for a 4-way stop. Currently, it is a 2-way stop. And, you know, there's a lot of traffic moving through that intersection, especially with development happening like it is. So this is for a stop sign warrant study for that intersection.
Commissioners, Commissioner Jenkins, again, this is in your portfolio. Any comment there?
Just standard course of business. We do this. So.
Yeah.
Like to make a motion?
Yeah. Be glad to make a motion that we approve the contract between Weber County and A-Tran for 3500 West stop sign warrant study.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Farrar.
Second.
If we have a motion and a second, are there any comments?
No, that's a second without a comment. Thank you.
Great. I'll place the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
We'll move on now to commissioners to item number 5. Page 2. Request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Matthew Davies for expert witness services. Our very own Brian Barron. Now, you have a nickname, and I wish I could get that right now. It brings a little smile to Chris Crockett's eyes. I'll get it here in a minute. Just go ahead.
So both this item and the next item on your agenda are contracts for expert witnesses that have been requested by our indigent defense attorneys. The county is responsible to pay all defense resource costs that are deemed necessary for complete defense. I've looked at both of these requests and I feel that they meet that standard. So I would ask for you to approve both of them.
Commissioners, this particular item is in our portfolio, and Mr. Barron, or the Shark, has made, I think, when we meet privately, he does a wonderful job in doing the homework behind the scenes, and so it's no problem for me to place my trust in his opinion on this. So I'd entertain a motion that we approve. In fact, Commissioners, we can do this one at a time for the sake of the agenda, but we approve both of these. Is there a motion?
You'd like a motion to approve the...
Let's do a motion for number 5, and then we'll do a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the contract by and between Weber County and Matthew Davies for expert witnesses services as presented by Mr. Brian Barron.
Second.
Motion and second. Place the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, is there a motion for that?
I'd make a motion that we approve the contract between Weber County and Stephen Greenspan for expert witness.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Place the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Keep on swimming, I think, is the... Oh. Tammy Adelot. You're next on our agenda. This, Commissioners, is item number 7, which is a request for final approval for a conditional use permit for Winston Park, a planned residential unit development consisting of 54 residential units and 2 open space parcels totaling approximately 40.259 acres. That's file number CUP 2020-18. Ms. Adelot, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This was brought before the Western Weber Planning Commission last week. As you've previously stated, this is a request for a conditional use of Winston Park, a PRUD in the A1 zone. The developer with PRUDs, similar to other types of development, a developer can request a certain amount of bonus density if they meet any combination of certain conditions listed in our code. This developer has shown that, and the Planning Commission has forwarded their recommendation for approval. I would like to draw your attention to their recommendations in the staff report. Their recommendations, these are not necessarily required by the PRUD code, but the Planning Commission felt to include them in their recommendation for approval. I wanted to draw your attention specifically to their request that the fire access be asphalt instead of the proposed gravel road. The fire district has approved that gravel access for their access road, and so they have issued approval for this development from their perspective. We would bring this recommendation forward to you based on the conditions contained in the staff report and the findings as well. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I'm good.
I do. We just finished a road from a developer taking on the responsibility of a road, Upper Bybee Drive, from a developer that was signed, and the road was substandard. It didn't meet all the counties the way we do business. And so now, decades later, we as taxpayers of Weber County have to go in and finish those improvements because we signed that Mylar. Is this something like that? I don't want to bind the county, just myself, in the future, because the developer hasn't done everything that now you're saying the recommendation from staff is it's meeting all of our requirements, but I need a little more clarification on that.
So I can tell you about this particular application.
Most concerned with the gravel road.
Sure. The gravel road, there is, if you look at the layout, there was originally 1 access proposed to this development. The fire district was concerned with the number of housing units proposed and the lack of access. And so they required a secondary access for emergency purposes. They have requested that the applicant ensure that at such time when a subdivision application has been approved, that it be part of the responsibility of the HOA to keep that clear. There will be signage along that road stating it's for emergency access. There are trails contained within this as well, so there may be an adjacent trail. They've recommended a Knox lock at the gate. If you come in off of 1800 South and you come in along that fire road, there will be a gate right up to the boundary of the residential area of this subdivision, along with a Knox lock. The other improvements that they've been required to install besides the street and the curb and gutter within the development are sidewalk, curb and gutter along 1800 South.
I'm satisfied with that explanation on how you've presented that.
Okay.
I don't have any other questions. Commissioners, if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I will make the motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve the Winston Park PRUD development, 54 lots.
Very good. Have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Great. Thank you. Any other comments? None being heard, I'll place that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adelot. Thank you for your explanation. Mr. Olson, you're up for a request for approval of contract by and between Weber County and Miss Rodeo Ogden, the Queen Committee for the 2021 Miss Rodeo Utah Queen Competition.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So we actually approved this, you approved this contract a month or so ago, but we had the Utah Cutting Horse approach us for some extra dates, and the people at the City of Ogden and the rodeo committees were gracious enough to move off of that weekend so we could hold the cutting regional show that same weekend, and we just have new dates with the Queen contests.
You know, I'm having been familiar with the personalities of those respective groups, I'm glad to see them working together. That's great, you know, and I'll also point out, Commissioners, that it's been decades now that we're the ones that are always taking care of the queens. Yeah. Here in the state of Utah. Really, when it comes down to any kind of rodeo queening, we certainly lead. In fact, we lead maybe the nation in our organization here. We've had our fair share of Miss Rodeo Americas as well, so that's great. Any other questions for Mr. Olson, Commissioners? None being heard, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the contract between Weber County and Miss Rodeo Ogden Queen Committee for the 2021 Miss Rodeo Utah Queen Competition.
Have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Place that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Olson. I'll also tell you, for just people who are listening in, is the Cutting Horse. They don't bring a lot of people. They space, even when they're normal, a lot of spacing there. But they spend a lot of money in hotels and in restaurants and in fuel and in other services. Many of them are in that classification of horse owners are either they're CEOs or presidents or owners of their own businesses. And so it's a great group. The second highest purse for horse competitions behind racing is the Cutting Horse, and so that's a good one. Next on our agenda is Jennifer Graham. It's a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and USU Extension Services to promote and provide extension services. This is one we've worked on for a while. Ms. Graham, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This is pretty much a renewal of our annual agreement that we have with USU Extension Services. This only differs in that we are looking for a 3-year contract so that it's not something that we have to do every year. However, there is a 60-day termination policy should we need to invoke that. And it is based on the budget that you commissioners approve each year as part of the annual budget process.
So, Commissioners, this addresses the botanical garden issue that we had earlier today, and it's made those right, and so that also this helps the county and saves it, yet still provides great education in the Master Gardener programs and other things that are available in the county. Thank you, Ms. Graham. 3 years is good and wise. Any comments, Commissioners, or I'll entertain a motion.
I'm pleased, Mr. Chair, that we've done this. We were in a contract here that really didn't serve us, and I'm glad that we've removed the portions of this that we have, and I'm very supportive of what we've done now. So I'd make a motion to approve this.
Thank you. We have a motion.
And I'd second that and just make the comment that, you know, this is a good contract between Weber County and USU Extension Services. USU does a great job in providing all sorts of services to our rural communities, as well as our Master Gardener program, et cetera, that, touches a lot of people. So I support it with a second.
Thank you very much. And I want to compliment both you, Commissioner Jenkins, and you, Commissioner Frohr, for being astute and picking up on some of those details. These things have been in place for really years and years and years, and you guys were savvy enough to look into those, in which will have a great benefit for the county moving forward. So thank you very much. With that, I'll place the motion for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. Appreciate that. Commissioners, we're now to item H on our agenda that was aforementioned. So I'll look for a motion to adjourn our public meeting and convene a public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to adjourn this public meeting and reconvene as a public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's great. Super. We're now in a public hearing. A public hearing to consider and take action on a request to vacate a 10-foot public utility easement located on the north and west side of Lot 2 of Drysdale Subdivision Phase 2, EV 2020-03. Mr. Felix Yavarino, welcome.
Yes, thank you.
You make that presentation, please.
Okay, so before you this day is an application to vacate the public utility easement on this owner's property. The owner's name is Kirk Nelson, and he lives out in Western Weber. His address is 4512 West, 1800 South. With this application, we go through a couple of processes. We look at state code, and we want to make sure that we're meeting the noticing requirements to all entities. We're getting notice out to the paper. We're posting a notice on the property, and this legislative action. There's a couple of things that the legislative body would look at. The first one: does good cause exist for the vacation of this easement? That's public utility easement, and neither public interest nor any person will be materially injured by this vacation. And so the staff, after looking over this application and the supporting documents, also taking comments from the county engineering, staff recommends approval for the request to vacate this public utility easement. With the conditions stated in the staff report.
Terrific. So we have staff approval. Everything's been posted and legal and binding. We're all good.
Yes.
Perfect. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Yavarino?
From me.
Great. Thank you. Any public comment regarding this? Any online, Shelley? We'll then move to item 4, which is a request for a motion to adjourn our public hearing and reconvene a public meeting. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd move to adjourn our public hearing and reconvene as a public meeting.
Very good.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, great. We're now back into a public meeting. Great. Let's take action on that public hearing. Item number H2, which is a discussion and/or action on a request to vacate a 10-foot public utility easement located on the north and west side of Lot 2 of Drysdale Subdivision Phase 2, or approximately 4512 West, 1800 South, EV 2020-03. Questions to Mr. Yavarino regarding the discussion that took place in our public hearing? Then I'll entertain a motion. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see out of the corner of my eye.
Okay, so Felix, in this, we've talked about this. This one you guys have come talk to us about, and there was no value of having that we could see. Doesn't really change the property value or size or anything. It's just, we're just vacating this easement.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve this.
How about a second?
A second, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Did we have a motion?
No.
Okay, then I'll take your motion.
That was an
Sorry.
official motion, and I'll do the official second.
Okay, I appreciate the officialness of those motions and seconds.
And it's ordinance number 1.
Ordinance number 1. Thank you, Fatima.
Commissioner Forer,
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Aye.
Chair Harvey.
Aye, thank you very much, and thank you, Fatima. Ordinance number 1 passes with unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Yavarino.
Thank you, guys.
Commissioners, we're at I-India on our agenda, which is your opportunity to give us some of your comments. Really?
Yeah, you know, Shelley talked today about the fact that our computers aren't working here, and that we can't download these, and you know, nothing's changed. We need to work on that.
Yeah, I believe that
the downloads.
I believe that we can interact between fruit computers and the other types of computers. I don't understand all the patches, but I agree with that. Mr. Frohr?
I spoke earlier, but I'd just like to thank Mr. McDonald, Bonnie, for showing up this morning. I look forward to serving with them on the WEBER Morgan Health Board. It's going to be as we are in the process of having a new director, so the timing, in my opinion, is great to have two new people, especially with their experience on this board. We'll have some large issues. We've confronted one with the vaccination. We've been through the COVID. That's going to continue. So there's going to be some hard decisions, and I look forward to your involvement, expertise, and professionalism on that board. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I want to publicly thank you, Commissioner Frohr, for your work over the long weekend as it relates to making certain that people who are trying to schedule will actually get a response. They'll get some customer service. They'll get some dates certain. We realize that for those who are over 70 and are trying to schedule their vaccination, that there's been errors in this county, but also throughout the state. We take responsibility for that and cover that, but I think with our background, we've got some stuff that they're actually beta testing right as we speak, right now. And we hope that before you're supposed to schedule next Thursday at 3 o'clock or put your name on a schedule, that you'll have some time certain and get a little bit of, get some peace that you have some dates and times for these vaccinations that are still flowing through. We appreciate the work of those people who are giving out those vaccinations, and not only in our health community, but our first responders who are helping keep us safe. There were a lot of activities that were taking place, or could have been a lot bigger over the weekend. And and most people aren't aware of those, but we're in a really good spot right now. We have a lot of wonderful people here, and we're super lucky.
Mr. Chair, I would like to just give a shout out to those people that took the time to call, email. This was something that needed to be brought to our attention for those of us that hadn't attempted to get online to get a vaccination scheduled. So this was very important information, and because of those people that reached out, public involvement, we're in the process of making the change, which I'm crossing my fingers, but hopefully by the end of this week, no later than the first part of next week, we'll have a system in place that will accommodate all those people that had concerns, valid concerns, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. And Josh Gard, we appreciate your interaction with us as well. Thank you. If there's no other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion for our final action item.
Move to adjourn.
I will second that.
Motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
We're adjourned.